Okay. So I'm recording a little late here, so my apologies for those of you that are, checking out the recording. Recording just a little bit late. We went over the types of headsets. That was the main thing we went over. So if you're wanting to use equipment, get in touch with me. If you're looking for equipment, you're looking for ideas. We work directly with the developer, with the CEO and founder of Arch Virtual, who runs that program, Acadicus, that we talked about, and he can do custom development for us. We do have a contract with them, and really any major custom development, I bring Carly Brady in on because Carly is the one that says, yes, we can do this. No, we can't do this. This is how much it would cost. This is how much we can spend. That kind of stuff. All right. She does the not fun stuff. I do the fun stuff. I get to put the headset on and play and develop and make stuff. And it's really, really cool. It's so cool, actually. My new house that I just moved into, right over here, I've got my own virtual reality room right off of my office. It's pretty cool. So let me show you a couple of things, because you don't want to hear me talk and jabber on all day. Let me show you some cool things in so we'll go into Acadicus first. We'll go into our what we have developed right now. One of the things that we've developed right now in Acadicus. Now, there's a difference between the types of VR learning that you're doing. There is, of course, what we would be saying is synchronous learning, right? So we have our synchronous and our asynchronous. So our synchronous learning means the instructor's in there with you, evaluating you, right? And that's what Acadicus does. Acadicus allows me to be in there with the student, changing things in real time. And I can give you an example of that. So let me bring up my sim manager here. And for this gentleman right here, I can change his vital signs and everything in real time. So if I want him to be passed out in VFib, I can do that. Okay, and you can see on the monitor back there, I'll walk in a little closer to the monitor. You can see on the monitor back there, everything that I'm changing, I can change here in real time. So I can actually watch my student. I can see how they react. I can evaluate what they do, and I'm doing all of that synchronously, not asynchronously, okay? Now, we do have asynchronous programs that we're currently using, and we do have some asynchronous development that we have done in Acadicus, and we can definitely do that. But Acadicus focuses much more on the synchronous. So, for example, if I want his shirt off, I just take his shirt off. And if I want him to go from normal skin tone to pale skin tone, and you can see he's breathing too. Might be a little harder to see, but he is definitely breathing. If I want him to go to pale, now my students that have joined in the headset, that have put the headset on and watched this, they immediately react. They go, okay, nope, that's bad. He looks bad. We need to do something about that right now. And that's what I'm looking for out of that student. I want that immediate reaction, right? So they're doing this from viewer mode right now, but I have my students, I have come in with a gaming computer and a headset and have had my students join actually in the headset. They loved it. They absolutely loved it. They came in the headset. They saw this guy go from default skin tone to pale skin tone. And it was just, most of them reacted immediately. He does have some animations as well that we can do. So Miles, this is Miles, by the way. He's very dizzy, right? And then, of course, when we shock him with the defibrillator, he will move. I can change his head position. So if I want his head position back to neutral, I can do that. I can make him angry. I can make him worried. Okay. And then obviously, not only do I have presets, so I can preset what I want his vital signs to be, but I can also then change those vitals as well. So if the heart rate of 198 is a little too much, I can change that and I can set those values. So now his heart rate's 177, right? So I can kind of make those decisions. Through viewer mode, the student can interact with some things. So for example, if they want to put the pads on, they can click the pad. Okay, oops, I'm still holding the IV bag, that's why. Release the IV bag. So they can click the pad and then click where they want that pad to be, right? And they can put it on. Or if they're in VR mode, so they have the VR headset on, they can pick things up. They can just pick it up and put it where it belongs. They don't have to click on it. The other thing in here is that I have recordings. So for example, if my student says, all right, let's go ahead and start CPR, then I just click up here and CPR begins. As long as I click it right. I guess I didn't click it right. Oh, wait. Oh, okay. It signed me out. Why did it sign me out? That's weird. Let me try to reload the scene here. I don't know why it signed me out. I'll just reload the scene. All right, you know what? Let me sign back in. Sorry about that. Just to give me a second here. While we're doing that, while I'm signing back in, I will show you the asynchronous. All right, so what we're using in terms of asynchronous. And again, because I'm a paramedic, it focuses mostly on the medical, okay? But there are other programs out there for just about anything you want, all right? So we're going to go to, well, there's person, there's Pokemon Go. Let me stop sharing here because let's go to VR patients. Here we go. All right, I'm going to share again. So in VR patients, this focuses more on the asynchronous, right? So where Acaticus focuses on the synchronous, VR patients focuses more on the asynchronous. So the idea here is that my student can log in from home, they can do their work, and then later on I get some feedback, right? How they did. Did they answer all the questions correctly? Did they do what needed to be done for the patient? Did they care for the patient appropriately? The main problem with that is that I don't get to see my student interacting. And we'll go ahead and start one here. So we have an overdose patient, okay? And then when I want to assess, so now I hit the assess button, all right? So now I can ask questions. Well, here's the problem. What if this thing doesn't answer a question that my student asks, right? So I say, okay, hi, I'm with the ambulance service. Can you hear me? Okay, and she doesn't say anything to me. And so I ask her again. Okay, she didn't say anything. And I ask her to wake up, right? So again, I'm just hitting this button. That's it. And all right, well, let's put the monitor on. All right, let's do an EKG on her. Let's do a 2-lead. Okay. And then I go over to treat, right? So I'm going to put some oxygen on her. Let's use a BVM at 25 and administer, right? And so again, this is great, but my student is learning how to push buttons. Now, again, nothing wrong with this program. We use this quite a bit because it does give them some practice, but they're really just learning how to push that correct button and make that, make this interact appropriately. Okay. With Acaticus, and they can put a VR headset on with this, but it's still just push button. It still really is just push button. With our Acaticus program, we can do custom development and we can say, this is what I want, this is where I want it, and this is the interaction that I want. So again, neither one of them is necessarily better than the other, but they both have sort of their own way of working. And so what I always challenge people to do is think about what you're looking to do with your class and decide, would synchronous work better? Do I want to actually, watch my student as they work? Or would asynchronous work better? Okay. So I'm going to stop sharing on VR patients for a second there. And I'm going to share Acaticus again because I'm back into Acaticus. Okay. And so in Acaticus here, I'm going to load a new scene, right? And all of these scenes that you're seeing today are custom built for Madison College. None of this existed until we developed it. Okay, these are all custom built for Madison College. So let me pull up more scenes. I'm going to show you the outdoor scene. Let's go to pediatric respiratory distress. And you know what? I need to optimize so you can hear it. So let me do that real quick. Let me optimize motion and video. There we go. And here we go. All right. And you can see our scene, we're outside. An outdoor scene. Ambulance, everything is interactable. Okay. From viewer mode, again, there's some limitations to what the students can do in terms of interaction. But once in the headset, they have full capability, full interactive capability. And the key here is that when my student comes in and says, okay, I want to start, getting this on, I want to do oxygen, I want to do nebulizer, those kind of things, I can actually be there and I can answer the questions. So the student says, what's your favorite color? Right? Which is not a question you can ask on some of the asynchronous stuff. I can answer that. My favorite color is purple or whatever it may be, right? And so that gives me that benefit of the synchronous versus the asynchronous. Again, both very valuable, but different capabilities. Okay. And then we'll go to our nursing station. So we'll go to nursing station, we'll load that. Again, all of these were custom built for Madison College. And the nice thing about this program is anything that's already in there is usable by any of us. So we can go in and say, we want this, we want this, we want this, we want this, or we can custom design. Okay. And so you can see some of the same assets that you saw before. Well, there's Miles. Glad he made it into the ER. Miles still not looking too good. He's kind of angry looking too. So. And I have control over all of these and what they do and how they interact and all of that. Okay. Here's our angry patient. There's Miles again. That's Miles' brother, though. That's not Miles. Okay. We also have more diversity in these than we have in our mannequins currently. So we have one mannequin that is a person of color, but then the rest of them are well, they're kind of pinkish, okay? But we have a very varied library here in this program as well that we can choose from. And then sort of my favorite place to show people, and you can get to see this as well. Let me go back out here. I'm going to go back to that dynamic cardiology environment. Here we go. Is what's called the Acaticus Commons. So if you download Acaticus onto your computer and you go and kind of check it out, you'll be able to go into the Commons. It'll say, you'll see a little button that says Start Here. This has a button right there that takes me to the Acaticus Commons. Now, in the Acaticus Commons, it shows you all of the, well, not all of the environments, but many of the environments that are currently available within this program. And then again, we have been doing customization here at the college as well. So one of the things that I do in Acaticus, I am an independent contractor for Arch Virtual. So I should have said that at the beginning. I usually do, but everybody knows me. So is I do lectures within Acaticus. So if I want my students to see a basic bones overview, they can go in, they can enter this, and then they can hit play. And it's a 3D lecture. So they can see me talking and lecturing and all that kind of stuff. There are also other lectures that are part of the Commons. Dr. Nick Slayman does a bunch of lectures that are part of the Commons as well. But then here's most of our medical scenario stuff. So we have indoor, we have outdoor. There is endotracheal tube placement, muscles, wound treatment, all that. And then there's also sort of the larger demo scenes. There's a Black Hawk helicopter in here as well. There's an oil rig. Here are all the different characters that are available. Warehouse environment. Mass casualty, which is an outdoor mass casualty. They're doing fall safety. This is the HVAC gauge. So this gauge actually works. And like I said, I found out that I know nothing about how to fix an HVAC system. And then I will show you right now a brief video, about 3-minute long video of what we are developing currently. And then, like I said, I want to turn it over to let's talk about what could potentially be developed. So I wanted to give you all of that background, and I'm sorry if I went through that a little quickly, but I wanted to give you all that background of sort of what we have been doing to kind of get you thinking, what could you potentially do utilizing virtual reality? So let me show you a quick video here. And this is available on my YouTube channel, and I'll put my YouTube channel on here as well. This video is available on my YouTube channel. And I think I'm still optimized. Reality, it might not be. Let me go back and check. I'm probably not optimized. I'm the WebEx guy, and I have to keep going back to check and see if I'm optimized. There we go. I'm optimized. All right, here we go. This video is a preview of how far Madison College has come in our virtual reality development in just over a year. Finding instructors who are passionate about engaging students in new and innovative ways helped to accelerate the success of our VR initiative. Initial development of virtual reality at Madison College focused mainly on the healthcare fields. Highly complex clinical and lab skills that were once taught in typical classrooms can now be demonstrated in fully immersive environments. Utilizing some of the assets already available in Acaticus helped us to find newer ways to engage our students. The scariest asset in Acaticus, the big, huge mouth. Even traditional lectures became more engaging and more immersive. Our ultimate goal was to use virtual reality to allow our students to practice in safety before they would go on to treat actual patients.
The student's responsibility when they enter the room is to receive a report on our patient. And then based on the information gathered from the vital signs monitor here, as well as what the verbal report, they would need to assess the patient, determine the best oxygen adjunct available that's over on the counter, and then apply that oxygen device using the prescribed flow from the oxygen flow meter, and then determine if the patient's condition improves or stays the same. Since anything is possible in virtual reality, expanding to other programs outside of healthcare was always the plan. Rather than handling environmentally hazardous gases for the first time, it is born not knowing how to work an HVAC system. Students can come prepared, having already simulated the correct process in dealing with these gases in the safety of the virtual reality environment. Students are even using critical thinking skills learned in their botany class to decide what plants would be best suited to help sustain human life on Mars. Excuse me. And of course, it goes without saying that without the amazing behind-the-scenes efforts of our leadership and development team, we would not be where we are right now and looking toward a bright virtual reality future. All right, so that was a little pitch that actually went up to the president's office. We are working to continue to keep virtual reality a reality, right? Oh, geez. Get rid of that.
It may seem like a small puddle at first sight, but in reality,
yeah, that's a good thing. Don't drive through that. So we are currently working on a proposal for a virtual reality or extended reality center at the college where students would be able to come into the center. They'd be able to check out headsets, or they'd be able to sign in and go into a booth and work with the headset inside of a booth and do whatever scenario it is that they're required to do, and then be able to check back out and walk back out of the extended reality center. Of course, We want people to be able to, come in and develop things. So that's where all of you come in. You've shown an interest in virtual reality just by being here today. So let's talk about some ideas that could be out there. What thoughts might you have on ways that virtual reality could be used in your class?
So I'm in cabinet making, and I've experienced VR on the user end. We've used spray sim equipment to practice spraying, and I was just blown away by the effectiveness of it. So my main concern is machine safety, and that's where I would like to be able to check students off before they get on the live machines. Did they understand the information that they've been given? And we've developed a lot of video resources and self-study resources. So I guess the question I have is, can it be set up to auto grade the students? So in other words, they go through some prescribed scenarios, and then the instructor gets a report how they did on it versus having to be in the room with them.
So certain programs can do that, like the VR sim that we're using. And if we got together about, how we could do that, if there's a program out there that we can use that will do something like that, then we can work on bringing that program in and making it part of our sort of, VR library. The other thing would be in Acadicus, in the one where we do a lot of custom development. If that were something that were custom developed, what you could actually do is have your student go in and record themselves going through that process, and then you can come back in later and check it off. Because that's designed more for the synchronous than the asynchronous, it doesn't have like an auto grading to it. But they could do something like that and we have students that do that. That go and record themselves doing a scenario, and then when that scenario is done, they just they hit stop on the recording, they leave. The instructor can then come in and watch that 3D recording and give them a grade based off of that. So that's a possibility. Of course, everything is updating. The thing about virtual reality is like every second something else is happening. Like everything is updating amazingly fast. And so I'm still trying to keep up with what is out there and what's next. So, but possibility, yes.
And then just an add-on question to that: what's involved in the development
Sure.
from a sense of time or cost?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. So most of the cost discussion comes through CETL. We are sort of funding the virtual reality initiatives. So cost perspective comes through us. I always defer to Carly Brady for that. But it really depends on how intense it's going to be. A lot of times, like I had an instructor who said, you know what I'd really love, Bill? I'd love a skeleton that I can pick up, move around, and show all the parts of the bone. And I'm like, done. It's already there, right? So the amount of time and the amount of money there was zero. It was done. There was no time, there was no money, it was nothing. It was zero. Whereas if you say, I have something like our HVAC simulator. I have an HVAC gauge. We need to build it. It needs to do this. It needs to do this. When the student does that, it needs to do this. There's a lot more complexity to it. Then that takes a little bit more time. Usually in terms of something really complex like that, I always say, don't plan for it this semester. Think in future semesters and what you're going to use it for down the road. To develop our dynamic cardiology scenario, and there's a lot of bits and pieces to that. To develop that, I would say altogether we were looking at about 3 to 4 months, just to get everything exactly the way that I wanted it. And I'm also a little OCD when it comes to that, like this has to be here and this has to be here, But that was all 100% custom development. Like pretty much nothing was in there except the environment. The condo environment was there. Other than that, everything else was built specifically for us, even all the animations and all of that. Cost-wise, on that one specifically, I don't remember the exact cost on that one specifically. All total, what we have spent on all of our VR development thus far, our custom development thus far, is somewhere around the 150,000 mark. And we have a lot of stuff. We have a lot of stuff to show for it. And we've had students replacing clinicals now. So I've had some students that they're replacing some of their clinical experience that they were missing out on because they couldn't go out to the hospitals. They're coming and doing a clinical with me, and they're getting clinical experience for it. So it really depends. And what the way that it usually happens is I have people come to me. We talk about what you want to develop, what you want to put together. I bring Carly Brady and then the developer in on the discussion, okay? Because then John Bruchot is the founder and CEO of Arch Virtual, and so he kind of comes in and says, "Here's what we could do. Here's how long it would take. That kind of stuff." And the overall like funding discussion goes through the three of us as to how that would work. But then we work on getting that project developed, and we work with you the entire way.
Cool.
I have a question. So I was really intrigued by your health themes because I would rather my students practice as the patient, saying things like, I can't breathe, or my heart's racing, or describing their symptoms. And I wasn't sure how hard it would be to switch your interface so that they would be the patient instead. Maybe.
Yeah, it's not a problem at all. As a matter of fact, when I go in there, now I do it by myself. I go in as both the patient and as the instructor. So I many times I'm talking to myself. It's a little weird. But I actually act as the patient. And it's very simple. I actually put myself into what's called ghost mode. And so the student can't see me. And then I just talk. I just talk as though I'm the patient. And I found initially my students, they had their headset on. And initially, they're sort of like looking over at me. You know, I'm kind of over here in the corner. And then when I go into ghost mode and I'm the patient, now they're talking directly to the patient. So actually, it'd be pretty easy to do. And, you know,
And
there
then
might
I
be
would be like,
collaboration
or
there.
you would be the doctor, right? And like they would describe.
Yeah, so doctor, paramedic, nurse, yep. And that actually would be kind of useful to the nursing students, the EMS students to, you know, talk to other people. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Leanne, yeah, go ahead. Oh, you're muted.
No?
Nope, we got you now.
Okay, good. So around development issues, currently if I'm doing development, if I'm doing virtual asynchronous development, it takes about an hour to an hour and a half to do 1 minute of finished content.
Mm.
And that includes things like branching scenarios so that there could be learner interaction. Again, this is around soft skills, communication skills. And I'm wondering what that development process looks like within the VR world. So can you, as representative of Madison College, are you actually working within the program, creating the scenes, creating the backdrop, the characters? Is it icon driven, just kind of drag and drop, or is there a fair amount of coding experience needed in trying to develop this stuff?
Yeah, absolutely. I have zero experience coding, none whatsoever. And I develop a lot of those scenes myself. So you can actually go in and there's a menu to choose the things that you want to bring into it. One of the easiest things to do, honestly, is to tell the developers what we want, because we actually bring one of the developers in. His name is Stefan, and Stefan comes in, sits in on the meeting, and you know, very fast is sitting there taking notes, like, okay, wait, okay, and then after you do that, it should do what now, right? So so they do all of that sort of like, if there's custom development to be built, there is no coding on our part that's done. Like, I don't do any of that. I tell them, this is what I'm looking for, this is what I want, this is the interaction that I need, this is how I need it to interact, you know, all of that kind of stuff, and then they actually go in and build that. So all of the development is done by them.
Okay. Yeah, so from an instructional design perspective, they're doing the storyboarding, they're like building the scenes,
Yep.
they're building the kind of the triggers to move back and forth at the correct spaces. You're just saying, as a customer, here's what I need. And
Yep.
there's instructional design teams somewhere else doing that work.
Yeah, and they're more of a a VR design team. I wouldn't necessarily call them the instructional design team. They're more of a VR design team. So we act as the subject matter experts. So they do act in sort of an instructional design capability, but they wouldn't even call themselves instructional designers. They're app developers and stuff like that. But yeah, we come in and like with our dynamic cardiology, I said, okay, I showed them a video. This is what it looks like when a student goes through dynamic cardiology. And they looked at that and went, oh, okay, all right, cool. So we would need this, and they start listing all the things. And what was nice is actually I went into the room with the developer and they just started pulling things in. Would this one work? What do you think of this? What do you think of this piece? What do you think of that piece? And they're bringing these things in. What I wanted, a lecture room for cardiology. So I wanted to be able to lecture in cardiology. And they said, well, tell us what you need. Here's what I need. I need this, and this. And they go, okay, cool. And they put it all in there for me. They had it set up, brought me in and said, anything you want to change, move around. I could change it and move it as I needed to. The other place that they have us go, this is kind of fun, is a website called Turbo Squid, Turbo, and then Squid, Squid. Turbo Squid is an area where there's a bunch of assets that we can purchase and then have brought into the environment. Many times those assets are already there. So if they are, they'll say, well, we have this or we have this. But I wanted a different IV bag. And I'm like, that IV bag doesn't look like the IV bag I carry on my truck. So I want a different IV bag. And they're like, okay, which one? And I went on Turbo Squid and said, that one. Okay, cool. And they put it in. Because a lot of those assets, those things that are available on like Turbo Squid and stuff like that, they're pretty cheap. They're not all that expensive. And so, those are things that are usually pretty easy for us to get in. But again, all financial stuff, I default to Carly Brady on financial. But when it comes to developing, working with you, getting what you want built in there, that's what I do.
A follow-up question on a different topic. What issues are you finding with motion sickness?
So I've had one. So of the 12 students that I had with their headsets on, and of course it's a small sample size. I had one student, all of them told me, well, not all of them, I'd say 3/4 of them told me, I've never been in virtual reality and I'm afraid that it's gonna feel weird. And I was like, okay, I completely understand that. Let's give it a shot. I'll stand right next to you. If you want to take the headset off immediately, you can. With our environments, because they're such low complexity, right? It's not a lot of movement and the student moves their head themselves. I had one student that when he was done said for about 15 minutes, he felt like he was still in the scenario. That's all I've had in terms of motion sickness. I had one student that said, I get very motion sick very easily. I can't ride in the back seat of a car. I said, okay, all right. Well, let's try it on and we can take it off immediately. And I had her sit in a chair and the whole thing. And she put it on and she was fine. She's like, oh yeah, no, this is okay. Because she was controlling her movement. She was controlling her head, all of that. Like that was her doing it rather than being in the back of a car where someone else is controlling how you move. Or in an airplane where someone else is controlling how you move and you don't have that control over that. Obviously, it can be a problem. So we're always concerned about that. We're always, we want to make sure that we get ahead of that. And so viewer mode is always an extra option. We make sure that if there is a student that's going to have a problem like that, where they're going to have, any motion sickness or anything, that we get them into to viewer mode. The vast majority of students, actually all of the students, when they put the headset on, they all did the same thing. They put the headset on and went, oh, cool. It was the same responses every time because they were in that environment and they could move around, and they could walk and all of that. There is some concern if we're using something like a 360 camera like this. This is a GoPro. This is a GoPro Fusion. It's a 360 camera. If we're using a 360 camera, that especially if there's going to be a lot of motion going on, that could cause some issues. So what we usually say with the 360 camera is that we take a picture and we make that sort of the background. So if I wanted my students to run a call in the middle of downtown Madison, I could, because you take a picture with the 360 camera and then that's overlaid inside of that environment that they're in. Rather, it sort of becomes the background rather than becoming the focus.
And is it also accurate that you can only have one learner in the interaction at a time?
I can have as many as I want.
Okay, and that's just limited to the number of headsets we have or the number of people who can access the viewer mode, right?
Correct. And it could be in viewer mode. It could be in headset mode. Full VR, whatever it may be. I think one of the coolest things, and one of the things that sold me pretty quickly on it, was when I met with the developer. I went and put the headset on, and the guy that he was talking to from Sweden was still in there. He was still in the environment. He's like, "Hey, how you doing?" I'm like, "Where are you at?" He's like, "Sweden." I'm like, "Cool, I'm in Madison, Wisconsin," right? And then when I went down to Florida, I brought my headset with me. I was in Florida doing a presentation with another person that was in Montreal, and our developer was in California. He was out in California. So we're kind of all over the place. Another appointment you sign up, no problem. And if you have any more questions, please feel free to ask. Oh, there goes Brian. Yeah, and so the other thing was we all joked about how we don't have to socially distance. Nobody was wearing masks, nobody was socially distancing, and we were right next to each other. We're shaking hands and everything, and we're right next to each other, but we're in VR, so nobody's really touching each other.
Hey, Bill.
Yes.
So I probably take a step back from virtual reality, watching gaming and things like that. So I'm going to experiment with an online hands-on class that we've never offered before. And ordinarily I'll use the lab at the department and things, and then we're going to go into the scenario rooms at some point. That would be how I would do it, but they've asked me due to some students' inabilities to come to campus and stuff in the fall, can we try some type of an online? And I'm just going to have to, probably amend the way we do things. But my thought was, so I understand the reality part, put the heads on, we're in this room, we're going to do this stuff. What about a pure online thing? Can you create it a step back where it's more like a gaming? The student sits at home at the laptop. Can he click, drop, I call it Badger Tracks. That's a DOT thing for accidents. Where you drop box and you say, okay, here are my choices. He's got to get the right choice, and he say, I'm going to collect this object in a crime scene, and he's got choices to go from. Can I create a crime scene, or can the group create a crime scene that's with choices? Because they're not going to have a reality. They're not going to come to school. I'm not going to obviously mail them things. But I was just thinking, now that I'm seeing this, I never thought about gaming. Just like you're sitting at home. Could we do something like that?
Yeah, I think that's very possible. What I would probably go with there is to try to find a program that already does something like that. So you said there's a program out there that's sort of like that. What I would do is try to see if there's a program that already does something like what you're trying to do.
Yeah.
And that would probably work even better. Now it could go into customization in something like a Catechus or other programs. Could go into some sort of a customization like that, more for the asynchronous. But I would be willing to bet there are probably gaming style programs that are available out there that are like that.
Okay.
Something similar to that. Because before Brian Moore came to us with HVAC, he was already using a little HVAC simulator, and the student would hit the buttons as to, which one goes next, which one goes where, that kind of stuff. So it was more video game style.
Yeah.
So, that's even something. I'll take a look and see if I can find something, but yeah.
Yeah, I think the issue is that, as a technical college, we have so many students that just can't come. They're single moms working full time and doing things, and you say, well, I'm on campus between 8 and 4 and you got to come. Well, that doesn't work for everybody. And that's why we offer online, because I know some of my students are doing it 2 in the morning because that's when they get home from work.
Yep.
And we've never, this one class, criminal investigation theory, which, as you know, uses the lab, we've never offered it online. So one thing, and now we're reaching a point where we have students who really are struggling in their final years. And of course, the pandemic didn't help any of this.
Yeah.
And so they're saying, well, we're going to have to try to do something. And Kevin, can you work on creating some things? And I've got some ideas for a few things. My first thought was to have them make their own crime scene and solve it. And, like where Barbie finds out Ken's having another relationship with American Girl, and
Sure.
she kills him, and now she has to get rid of the body, So
Yeah.
I'm assuming there's something, but I've never, in all the networking things, I've never seen anything like that. But I agree with you, there should be. And I guess I've never searched harder. Maybe that's what I should do and see if the college is willing to
I'm
work.
kind of doing some searches here, and I'll keep doing it. But I'm kind of doing some searches here on Google even, and just to see if there's something in there.
Yeah, but that's what I was thinking anyways. Yeah.
Love this session. Glad I love this. Barbie always looked guilty. Yeah. Yeah. Very true. Very true. But she's got everything. I mean, my daughter's got the Barbie dream house, and I'm just like, really, Barbie? Like, man, look at that house. It's just awesome. Yeah. Well, we are at time, but like I say to everyone in every session that I always teach, I will be the last to leave the room. So please feel free to ask questions. I have a 1:15 session that I'm going to be joining, that I'm going to be watching. So I would like to leave it at least 1:15. But if you have other questions, comments, thoughts, Leanne, I know you were picking up some headsets to kind of try out and to play around with. I think that's awesome.
Yeah, yeah.
That really is the best way too, is like.
Well, I've already been playing around with, the free things like Google Lens, which is a tremendously fun thing to do, and kind of relying on some stuff I've learned in the past, but I'm playing some catch up for sure. Stuff has come a long way.
Believe me, I'm with this stuff every day, and I'm still playing catch up. That's how quick all of this is coming out. It's unbelievable how fast all this is coming out. And that's why, Kevin, I would say to you is like, there's got to be something out there for that, for what you're talking about. Like, yeah. Definitely.
I'll look around again, and we obviously will keep in touch.
Yeah, most definitely.
Okay. It was great. I really enjoyed this.
Excellent.
You guys take care of yourself.
Yeah, you as well. I'm glad you came. Good to see you.
Yeah. Thank you very much. I appreciate all your time.
Yeah, you have a wonderful day.
Thanks, you too. Bye-bye.
Take care.
So Bill, I will ask,
Yeah.
speaking of headsets, are you seeing a trend that they're becoming cheaper where this could be ever more commonplace?
Yeah, as a matter of fact, this headset, so the new Quest 2 is about for like a relatively good. It's like $300 for the new Quest 2. For the Rift S, which is the other one that I have, that's also about $300, but the Rift S is kind of going away. Oculus is relying more and more on their Quest. But then there's even where you go higher, right? So the HP Reverb 2 is about $600. And then there's one called a Valve Index, and the Valve Index is about $1,000, right? And so it kind of goes up from there. I think the sort of lowest end right now are the Oculus. And they're really, really getting reliant on the Quest. Now, you can use the Quest on our customization program, Acadicus. You can use the Quest on that. Doesn't work quite as well as the Rift does, but then all of the other ones, so there's an HTC Vive, all of those are going to be this week are usable on Acadicus, on the program that we use. And then we're kind of constantly updating our stock as more and more people are wanting to do VR. We're kind of getting more in Seattle, and so we can loan them out to you as well, including the gaming computer.
Okay. Yeah, I see the opportunity to really expand our market nationally.
Yeah.
A student could be anywhere, and we could be doing evaluations and stuff on them. So Brian is right next to me down the hall, so
Awesome.
get together with him to see what he's done
Yeah.
and hopefully come up with some ideas, and maybe we can get together and
Yeah.
chat about it.
Yeah, most definitely. I'd love to help you develop something.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right. Well, this is very helpful. Thank you.
Great. Take care.
Bye-bye.